There was a time when people believed money would eventually create peace. Not luxury, not mansions, not private jets, just peace. The idea seemed simple. Work hard, earn more, slowly build stability, and eventually life would stop feeling so heavy. People imagined a future where bills stopped creating anxiety, where checking a bank account didn't create stress, where weekends actually felt relaxing instead of feeling like temporary recovery periods before another exhausting week began. But something strange happened over the last decade. People started making more money while simultaneously feeling more financially insecure than ever before. Salaries increased, opportunities expanded, technology advanced, and yet millions of people quietly developed the same constant feeling in the back of their minds. Why does life still feel this difficult? That feeling exists almost everywhere now. A person making $30,000 feels behind. A person making $80,000 feels trapped. A person making $200,000 still feels pressure every single month. And the strangest part is that almost nobody talks honestly about it. Everyone walks around pretending they're managing perfectly while privately calculating expenses in their heads during random moments throughout the day. At the grocery store, while checking rent prices online late at night, while opening delivery apps and immediately closing them again after seeing the total, while sitting in traffic thinking about how much life costs just to maintain a normal existence now. Financial pressure has become so normalized that people barely even describe it anymore. It simply became part of modern life. But the truth is that people are not imagining this feeling. Modern life genuinely feels heavier now, not only financially, but psychologically. The pressure follows people everywhere. Even moments that were once relaxing now feel connected to productivity, money, optimization, or comparison. People wake up and instantly check notifications. They scroll through other people's lifestyles before their brains are fully awake. They consume endless images of wealth, success, beauty, luxury apartments, expensive vacations, perfectly designed homes, 20-year-olds claiming financial freedom, entrepreneurs talking about $10 million businesses, influencers pretending their lives are effortless, and slowly, without realizing it, the brain begins redefining what normal is supposed to look like. That may be one of the biggest psychological shifts in modern history. A few decades ago, comparison was limited by geography. Most people compared themselves to coworkers, neighbors, classmates, maybe celebrities on television occasionally. But now the average person compares themselves to thousands of people every single week without even noticing it happening. And the human brain was never designed for that level of constant status exposure. Social media didn't just change communication. It changed human perception itself. Suddenly, ordinary life started feeling emotionally invisible. A normal apartment feels too small. A normal paycheck feels embarrassing. A normal car feels like failure. People can objectively live better than previous generations while emotionally feeling poorer every year because their standards are no longer based on survival. They're based on endless digital comparison. And the terrifying part is that the comparison never ends. There is always someone younger making more money, someone traveling more, someone living in a better city, someone with a better body, a better relationship, a better lifestyle, a bigger house, a more luxurious routine, a more exciting career. The internet created an environment where the human brain exists inside a permanent upward comparison cycle. Even successful people get trapped inside it. Someone making more money than their parents ever imagined can still feel financially inadequate because they no longer compare themselves to average people around them. They compare themselves to global extremes, to influencers, to celebrities, to entrepreneurs posting highlights from the top 1% of human lifestyles. And eventually something dangerous starts happening psychologically. People stop asking themselves whether their lives are actually bad. Instead, they ask whether their lives look impressive enough compared to what they constantly consume online. That shift quietly destroys satisfaction. Because satisfaction requires emotional arrival, and emotional arrival becomes impossible once the brain is trapped inside infinite comparison. No achievement feels final anymore. A salary increase creates temporary excitement for about 2 weeks before the mind adapts and starts wanting the next level. A new apartment feels exciting until social media introduces a more luxurious one. A vacation feels meaningful until someone else posts something better. The brain becomes trapped in a cycle where gratitude disappears faster than ever before. At the exact same time this psychological pressure exploded, the actual cost of living also started rising aggressively. Housing became dramatically more expensive in major cities. Food prices increased. Education costs increased. Healthcare costs increased. Transportation, childcare, insurance, utilities, subscriptions, rent, taxes. Almost every category of survival became heavier simultaneously. And this created a brutal combination. Higher psychological expectations mixed with higher real-world financial pressure. People aren't only imagining life becoming harder. In many ways, it genuinely became more expensive just to maintain an ordinary lifestyle. This is why so many people today feel exhausted even while technically progressing. They work harder, earn more, and somehow still feel stuck in the exact same emotional position financially. Because every increase in income immediately gets absorbed by modern life itself. A slightly higher salary creates a slightly larger apartment. A larger apartment creates higher bills. Higher bills create more pressure. More pressure creates longer working hours. Longer working hours create exhaustion. And exhaustion slowly removes the ability to actually enjoy the life people spent years trying to build in the first place. Modern ambition quietly turns into emotional survival. You can see this especially clearly inside large cities. Millions of people wake up inside small apartments surrounded by massive buildings filled with other exhausted people trying to maintain the same expensive lifestyles. They commute through crowded streets while staring at screens filled with people pretending to live perfect lives. They spend entire days under artificial lights answering emails, attending meetings, multitasking endlessly, then return home mentally drained while still feeling guilty for not being productive enough. Even rest no longer feels like rest. Relaxation feels earned only temporarily before anxiety returns again. And over time, people slowly lose the ability to feel satisfied with ordinary moments. The modern world trains the brain to constantly search for optimization. Better routines, better productivity systems, better careers, better investments, better side hustles, better opportunities, better bodies, better lifestyles. Everything becomes a competition against invisible standards that never stop evolving. People no longer feel allowed to simply exist peacefully. Every part of life starts feeling monetized or performance-based. Hobbies become businesses. Personalities become brands. Free time becomes wasted potential. Rest creates guilt instead of recovery. That's why burnout became so widespread. But modern burnout doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like someone scrolling endlessly at midnight because their brain cannot relax anymore. Sometimes it looks like someone feeling anxious during a vacation because they're thinking about work the entire time. Sometimes it looks like emotional numbness. People become so mentally overloaded that they stop feeling excitement altogether. They operate permanently in maintenance mode, constantly managing stress while telling themselves things will feel better later once they finally reach a certain income, lifestyle, or milestone. But later never fully arrives because the system itself depends on dissatisfaction. Modern economies profit massively from people who never feel like they have enough. Dissatisfied people consume more. They upgrade more. They compare more. They chase more status. They work longer hours. They stay psychologically engaged with platforms and advertisements longer. Entire industries are built around manufacturing desire. And social media amplified this process to a level human psychology was never prepared for. People are no longer simply buying products because they need them. They buy emotional identities. They buy validation. They buy temporary feelings of status, progress, importance, and belonging. That's why modern spending often feels emotionally confusing. People buy things hoping the purchase will create relief more than happiness. A luxury item becomes proof that the stress was worth something. A nicer apartment becomes evidence of progress. Expensive experiences become social signals showing that someone's life is moving forward. Consumption becomes emotional reassurance. And because the emotional reassurance fades quickly, the cycle repeats endlessly. Another purchase, another goal, another attempt to finally feel stable. Meanwhile, something even deeper has been quietly disappearing from modern life: the feeling of enough. Previous generations often had clearer emotional definitions of success: a stable job, a home, a family, financial safety, retirement. But modern ambition became abstract and infinite. For one person, success means escaping the 9-to-5 system entirely. For another, it means becoming wealthy before 30. For another, it means building a personal brand. For another, it means early retirement. For another, it simply means surviving without constant anxiety. Society lost a shared stopping point, which means people no longer know when they're allowed to finally relax. And once a society loses the concept of enough, comparison becomes permanent. Even wealthy people often feel trapped by this. Someone with $1 million compares themselves to someone with 10 million. Someone with status fears becoming irrelevant. Someone successful becomes terrified of losing everything they built. Wealth changes the shape of fear, but it doesn't automatically eliminate fear itself. In many cases, it intensifies it because now people have more to lose emotionally, financially, and socially. That's why so many high achievers secretly feel emotionally exhausted. They spent years sacrificing peace in order to someday feel peaceful, but by the time success arrives, their nervous systems are already conditioned for constant stress. The brain adapts to pressure so deeply that slowing down starts feeling uncomfortable. Stillness creates anxiety. Rest creates guilt. People forget how to exist without productivity attached to their identity. Their self-worth becomes directly connected to output. How much they earn, how much they achieve, how optimized they are compared to everyone else. And this creates one of the darkest emotional realities of modern life. People begin feeling poor even when their basic needs are technically met, because psychologically, they never feel safe enough to stop chasing more. The pressure becomes internalized. Even after work ends, the brain continues racing. Even after achieving goals, satisfaction disappears quickly. Even during moments that should feel meaningful, comparison quietly interrupts the experience. You can see this happening everywhere now. Someone sitting in a beautiful restaurant barely enjoying the moment because they're distracted taking photos for social media. Someone buying expensive clothes not because they love them, but because they fear appearing unsuccessful. Someone earning more money every year while simultaneously feeling more emotionally unstable. Someone lying awake at night calculating future expenses despite objectively doing better financially than most people around them. Modern financial anxiety is no longer only about survival. It's about psychological insecurity created by endless exposure to lifestyles that feel permanently out of reach. And maybe the saddest part is that many people genuinely believe their exhaustion is a personal failure instead of recognizing they're reacting normally to an environment filled with constant stimulation, comparison, advertising, economic pressure, and performance expectations. Human beings were never designed to process this much social information all the time. They were never designed to compete globally every waking hour. They were never designed to constantly evaluate their own worth against algorithmically amplified extremes of wealth and success. Modern life is psychologically loud. Every app fights for attention. Every platform fights to trigger emotion. Every notification interrupts mental stillness. People spend entire days consuming information without ever giving their brains silence. And over time, the nervous system remains permanently overstimulated. That's why so many people fantasize now about disappearing into simpler lives. Small homes, quiet mornings, less pressure, less noise, less comparison, less performance. Not because ambition disappeared, but because people are exhausted from living inside systems that never stop demanding more from them emotionally. And maybe that's the real reason everyone feels poor now. Not only because housing became expensive or inflation increased or salaries failed to keep up. Those things matter. But underneath all of it exists something deeper and more psychological. Modern people are surrounded by infinite expectations, infinite comparison, infinite consumption, infinite ambition, infinite pressure. The world constantly teaches people that wherever they are financially, emotionally, socially, or professionally, they should already be further ahead by now. So people keep climbing, keep scrolling, keep chasing, keep spending, hoping the next level of success will finally create the peace they imagine money was supposed to bring them in the first place. But peace becomes difficult to reach in a world designed to constantly interrupt satisfaction. And maybe the most dangerous illusion of modern life is convincing people that the answer is always one more upgrade away, one more salary increase, one more purchase, one more achievement, one more version of themselves. Because the moment people stop feeling like enough, almost every system around them profits from keeping that feeling alive forever.